carbs, we don't want too much bread, but there's something about the history of bread and just making that dough and feeling it in your hands that is exciting, and it makes, believe it or not, a wonderful gift. I have made many loaves of stromboli and wrap it up and give it to friends, either at Christmas time for parties or just as a nice gift, housewarming gift. So the book that actually was recommended to me by a passenger on an airplane is Tartine Bread, and comes from an Italian man who had 8 kids, and he makes his own sourdough bread for his family every week. So he goes through the process in this book. Again, Tartine Bread, Tartine, and he talks about shaping the dough, the temperature of the room, the leavening agents, the amount of flour, the tools that he uses. And while it sounds very detailed, it's one of these things where once you just kind of get the hang of the folding the dough in your hands and getting your hands around it, and you'll get a sense of the technique that you need to make that beautiful crusty sourdough bread, or really all of the other recipes that you can use with this starter kind of loaf. So another example would be he uses, which I thought just sounded fabulous, is this olive goat cheese with figs and persimmons. Ooh. I mean, if that isn't a favorite of anybody's just listening to all those delicious ingredients. And when that bakes up and the olives kind of rise up to the top of the crust, it's absolutely beautiful. And again, I can't stress enough how that must feel in your hands with all of those really good fresh ingredients. So again, he starts out with just a basic recipe for an old country bread, and he morphs that into baguettes, croissants, pizza crust, and at the very end of the book, he actually goes into making pastries for and recipes that you would use to serve somebody. So, for example, if you were making French onion soup, which he does give you a very, very good recipe, well, you can't have French onion soup without beautiful croutons in it. They just have to be crunchy, and they have to be, circled in that Gruyere cheese just right. And when you see the pictures in this book, you'll know exactly what I mean. So, and by the way, this French onion recipe, which I have made French onion soup, but never with actually the simplicity of the white wine. But one addition here was the duck fat. I've never put duck fat in that, but I bet it's good. Don't doubt it till you try it.
Gosh, those photos are beautiful.
Yeah, they really are. And he gets into talking about just how people around the world, everybody loves crusty bread and butter, or crusty bread and cheese. And even, if you're going through France or, walking through Paris, and actually a lot of, beautiful European cities are like this, you'll see people walking with a loaf of bread, a bottle of wine, and a bouquet of flowers. And, what could be more perfect than that?
On a Wednesday.
On a Wednesday. On a Wednesday, yeah. So I urge you to try Tartine Bread. And the other beautiful thing I should mention about this is the gentleman, Chad Robertson, he goes through his history of where he studied, how he got started. He is a graduate of the Culinary Institute. He studied in France. He went in the Swiss Alps. He's been all over. And his claim to fame really is his bakery called Tartine in Northern California. So maybe worth a visit. Maybe a road trip for the crew, I don't know. Okay, and then the next book I wanted to talk about was World Food Paris. And this book does have a lot of information as well about bread and the uses of bread in many different, like for charcuterie boards and on for, people with different passions. But in particular, what's unique about this book, I think, is, again, because it's from World Food Paris, so thinking about how the French eat and makes them so different from what we think about in every day. So the pictures in this book, if you're interested in just looking for some beautiful ways to set up charcuterie boards with different cheeses, salami, olives, he throws in some wild asparagus, sardines. They're just, the pictures are beautiful. And they're easy to follow. I did want to mention here that, there's a quote here in this book, why is French cheese so excellent? And he goes on to say that what really makes our cheese the best in the world is our cheesemakers and their passion. They are the real heroes of French cheese. So that's kind of hard to beat. And again, we go into lots of pictures with all different cheeses. And then he talks about some of the recipes that I would say would be my favorite.